Classroom. Thank you. Good morning, Matt. I'm editing this later. What's up, man? Hope you had a good day. So today we're going to be making this with beef bones. All right, you guys will find our beef bones in our prep sink over here when y'all need them. All right, we're going to be cooking in this item right here on top of my cooktop. Anybody know the name of this item that I'm cooking in?
Sauce.
It's a saucepan, right? If it was a sauce pot, it would have two handles. Saucepan has one handle. All right. This is a 4-quart saucepan. I'm going to make sure all my ingredients I'm making today fit in the object that I'm going to be using. So what I did today is I walked over there because I got bones of all shapes and sizes. I took the pot I was cooking it in and I filled it about halfway up with bones that fit nicely. All right. I'm using some high quality, fresh from the butcher house beef bones. These come right off the chops when they're cutting things like sirloins and other big cuts. We save the bones in our kitchen so that we can use our waste for good. All right, so using all that piece, we're gonna use really high quality product. When we're making stock, if we start with bad ingredients, scraps of things, the skins of the outside of our ingredients, we're gonna wind up with a really low quality product. I don't wanna make a garbage tea. I wanna make something flavorful and wonderful. So using high quality ingredients in a stock is incredibly important, all right? For my bones, because it's a long process, I'll get started while I'm cooking. All right, so I'm gonna throw these in and I'm gonna start to show you guys the knife cuts for our vegetables today, all right? First thing I'm gonna do, I've got some water. I've got about 1.5 quarts of water here, 4-quart pot filled up to the top, all right? I'm gonna bring that to a boil first and I'm gonna introduce my bones. The reason for this is I'm gonna be doing something called blanching. Blanching is anytime we cook anything briefly in boiling water. We'll be blanching vegetables, pastas, all sorts of other items in this kitchen. But anytime we briefly cook something in boiling water and then remove it, that is referred to our kitchen as a blanch. Bringing your water up to a boil, I'm going to slowly lower my bones inside. This is going to do two things. It's going to liquefy some of the fat that is sitting on top of my bones, and it's also going to pull out some of the impurities, meaning any of the blood that is inside of the bones, the marrow of the bone itself. I want to make sure that I pull out of there, because what that's going to do is it's going to turn brown and it's going to get cloudy if I include that in my final product. Now, lucky for me, as I'm working, this is going to boil and all of the bone and all of the marrow inside of there is going to float to the top, and I'm actually going to skim this off. I'm going to need two pieces of equipment to do that. I'm going to need this high-sided metal object. This here is called a Bain Marie. Y'all need them. They're on top of the mixer that has the bowls on top. All right, Bain Marie and a large ladle. This is going to be used just to skim off my marrow. That's going to take a second as it comes up to a boil. So I'm just going to let that chill, and I'm going to make sure it's topped off with some water just to make sure my bones are totally covered. All right. Constantly boiling water. This is unsalted, unseasoned. I'm going to be using this water as I go on here. All right, but for now, that'll be step one. Step two, while this is going, I'm going to have you guys in teams of 4 today because there's lots to do and not a lot of time to do it. All right, we're going to be making some add-ons, okay? For our flavored ingredients, we're going to be using a bouquet garni and some mirepoix, some French terms left over from those chefs I told you about the other day. All right, those old French chefs made these concepts that I'm showing you now. All right, and stock is fundamental to the Escoffier's cooking plan. All of his recipes start with high quality stock and simple ingredients. All right, so first we'll build a mirepoix. Mirepoix is very, very simple. For a stock, this is gonna cook 10, 12 hours. All right, we're gonna start with these pots. All y'all are gonna make your recipes today, and then I'm gonna put it into a big stock pot, cover it, and just let it rock real low and slow overnight. And then I'm gonna pull it out tomorrow morning and really have a beautiful stock. But you don't eat what goes into a stock. It's used as an aromatic. Aromatics are anytime we put something in that we don't eat when it's over. It gets taken out and it adds flavor. All right, like seasonings, the mirepoix in this case, right, and our herbs are all going to be aromatics. So when I use that word, you all know what it means, okay? Since they're cooking for so long, we can cut them into big pieces, but we want as much of the water to touch the pieces as possible. So we're going to cut what's called an oblique cut. Oblique cuts are taking your carrot straight out in front of you, turning your knife at a 45-degree angle, cutting through, and then facing that open side towards you so that it's facing just like this. Can everybody see that up in my hands and on my cutting board? Once it's facing in that direction, I'm gonna make that same 45-degree cut at the top. What that's gonna do is it's gonna make a piece of carrot that makes it so as much of the water can touch it as possible, so I can pull out as much carrot flavor as possible. All right, I'm gonna continue with these oblique cuts, rotating this carrot, and just cutting some big, chunky cuts right as these cook down. We already worked on a couple of knife cuts in this kitchen. We worked on dices, right? We worked on julienne, we worked on brunoise. These are all cuts that go into things that are going to be eaten by the customer, right? When we make a soup, we're gonna have a small dice so everybody gets a little bit on their spoon, right? For big oblique cuts like this, typically I won't use this cut unless I'm serving maybe some really densely roasted vegetables or something like that. But in this case, we're just gonna be adding that straight to our pan, and we're gonna use the same ratio, right, for my mirepoix. First thing I do is I grab my onions. I call that 50% of my recipe. All right, and like I said, I make sure all this fits in my stock pot. All right, onions are 50% of my mirepoix. The other 25% is celery and carrots. So I'm just kind of gonna represent that by eye today. All right, you can make as much or as little stock as you want. At home, if you just ate a rotisserie chicken out the grocery store, you can save the bones and do this exact same process with the leftover bones to make a beautiful chicken soup stock for your kitchen at home. Awesome, totally killer, really easy. Throw a little noodles in there, a little small diced mirepoix, you got yourself the best chicken soup ever, all right? So, onto the celery. When you guys are working with celery, be very careful on the bottoms, right? They collect some dirt as they sit in between. I grabbed a couple of ribs off of the head. I'm just gonna make sure that I get these really clean, right? I'm just gonna go over to my little prep sink over here. Just make sure that I tidy this up. All right, we're not using any roots or any celery leaves in this case, just so we don't introduce any bitter flavors into our recipe. And we're just gonna cut these into very large pieces, about twice the size of a large dice. Probably big old 2-inch sections out of our celery. Because if I cut it too small, if I cook this for 12 hours, whatever, it's gonna just disappear, go away, it'll be mush. All right, I want it to hold on a little bit. When we're cleaning up our onions, I hate these little hairs that hang off the bottom because they always wind up in my finished product because I didn't clear up my board enough. We're gonna skin these onions, all right? Stem end, not the root end, comes off. I'm gonna peel this down like a banana. I'll just score one side and just peel my skin towards that bottom root, making sure I get any undesirables off the outside here. Once that's prepped, that's basically an onion ready to be cut into any which shape. All right. I don't know if you guys can see, but over in my pot, if y'all will look at the screen up top, in my pot, you'll start to see some clouds start to form on the very top of my pot. I'm just gonna turn that down by about half so I can turn this from a boil to a simmer. Boiling is big bubbles, simmering is gentle bubbles, all right? That simmer is gonna start to coagulate some of those proteins from the bone marrow. Can you guys see that up there? I've got some gray clouds. Those are going to be my protein. Essentially what happens when you boil blood is proteins coagulate and they bind together. All right. When they bind together, they're going to form these clouds of impurities, and they're actually going to catch all the fuss that would come off of those bones in my stock, and I'm going to skim them off with that ladle over there. All right. So as my onions are totally clear, I'm just going to skim as I go. Again, I'll have you guys working in groups because there's lots to do today, so somebody can be watching this pot. With the back of my ladle, I'm going to press down on my liquid until the water is level with the top of my ladle. At that point, I'll tip the ladle towards the section that has the impurities floating around in it, and the impurities should slip into my ladle while leaving my water in my pot. All right, so again, I'm just gonna press down, angle my ladle, and you'll see those clouds slip in to the pot itself. That way I'm taking as little water as possible away. And those can just go straight into your bain-marie, skimming as you go, and trying to take as little, because we're gonna use this bone water moving forward in. All right. For a really large dice, same as always with dicing straight through the root, always cutting on a flat side. In our case, we're just going to cut very large dices, so I'm just going to go once through. Right, and then big, fat cuts set up into my onion. All right, from here we'll get something even larger than a large dice, probably about 1.5 inches across. Always use those bits of the root, but don't put the root in the final products. You start with garbage, you end with garbage. Right, Chef?
Yes, Chef.
Oh, yeah. I definitely worked a couple of places where they saved their vegetable scraps, but the vegetable scraps were not of quality. For instance, it was onion skins, it was the bottom of celery, it was all the parts that had dirt on them. They saved those for their stock. They wound up with, well, garbage water to start all of their rice with, right? And if you start with an extraction of onion stems, you're going to wind up with something that tastes a lot like the nasty root of a vegetable, all right? Once I got my mirepoix made, I'm just going to give this a really gentle toss. I'm going to toss these in a little bit of oil. We're going to reserve salt, all right? We're not going to be salting a stock because it's going in other stuff. If I salt my stock and I add it to my rice, I don't know how much salt I'm going to be using for that rice, so I need to be able to control that. So stock is going to be unsalted. right, as the hull. All right, that's just gonna make it so I'm not boiling these. I'm actually gonna give them a little bit of a sweat in my oven. I've got the oven at 500 degrees right now. That 500-degree oven's gonna blacken all my vegetables, get it really dark roasted. It's gonna put some serious color. Chef, could I get a set of tongs, please? Chef didn't mise en place before he got started. That's my bad. Make sure y'all have all the tools you need before you get started. All right. Last but not least, we're gonna be putting a little flavor packet in here. All right. Thank you, Justin. To retrieve your bones out that water, just get yourself a nice set of tongs. Those are hanging right behind the mixing bowls if you need them. All right, you'll see the color has changed a lot, but the fat has melted off of my bones. Right, and we've started to get a really nice product here. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna throw that over my mirepoix, and that's gonna act like a little oven rack. That's gonna give me a little air. So as the heat of the oven goes into my pan, it can circulate around the bones and cook all sides of them really nicely. Right, if you're roasting a chicken at home, this is a great hack in case you don't have an oven rack at home. Throw some roasting vegetables underneath your chicken and pop it on top. That'll let the air get all the way around there. All right, this is gonna go into a 500-degree oven for about 20 minutes until I got some really dark color on here. All right, and I'm gonna bring my white stock over here back to a boil. This is extremely usable in all kinds of different applications, but we're gonna go even farther with the flavors on this in just a minute. Over here we got some flat leaf parsley, right? Grassy, flavorful, lemony, really bright. All right, we've also got some fresh thyme, T-H-Y-M-E, thyme. All right, thyme is wonderful, aromatic, cooks up really well. We're gonna make this into what the French call a bouquet garni. All right, bouquet garni is just French for a bundle of herbs. All right, a bundle of herbs is gonna be done with a bit of butcher's twine. All right, butcher's twine you guys can always find in the library if you need it, right behind Christian over there. All right, butcher's twine is just gonna be done up like you tie your shoe. All right, the reason we're gonna tie this into a knot is because we don't want this to have to be fished out separately, and we don't want them to separate and overcook. So what I'm gonna do is right at the center, I'm gonna squeeze really hard. I'm gonna fold these in half. All right, I'm just gonna take my twine, wrap it around a couple of times loose, and then we're just gonna tie these ends like we tie our shoe. All right. With that bundle, that will be an additive that we're getting into our liquid. All right, this is just gonna go straight into our pot as it comes up to oil. Make sure that's fully immersed. All right, then we have our swab. All right, right here I've got, thank you, chef. Right here I've got my roasted bones. Just came out of the oven, blanched before you guys got here, and my mirepoix that sits on the bottom. You're gonna notice a couple things. Mirepoix lost a ton of water. All right, that way we're not trying to extract all the celery water out of there. We're getting all that flavor. Can y'all see how roasted up those are? All right, and you should be able to smell it. If it's not perfumey, aromatic, doesn't smell done, ready, roasted, delicious, let it go for another minute. All right, all this brown fat, that's all the deliciousness we're trying to extract, all right? Don't forget, we are in the pursuit of delicious. If it doesn't smell amazing, don't move forward. Keep going on this current step, all right? So from here, we're gonna get our bones in, all right? Nice and roasted for the extraction. Beautiful, come all the way in. Lots of mirepoix across the top of that. I got about a quart finished product in here. Excellent. And that's just about ready to rock. I'm gonna let this cook for about 12-ish hours, all right, on low. And that's gonna make essentially a tea out of these meat bones. We're gonna strain that twice through a really fine sieve until we have a glassy, clear stock, right? And that's gonna be going into our freezer. And then anytime we make anything in our kitchen, not just soups, but anytime we're making rices, anytime we're building anything where we would put water, we can use some beautiful beef stock when we need it. We're gonna have this in 3 styles in our kitchen: beef, chicken, and vegetable. And anytime we need anything that matches those applications, we'll have stock ready to go. So this will be the first of many. Good morning. Been overnight on a very low flame. What we got here is the slow reduction of our stocks from earlier. I've made 2. This here is your guys' beef stock. Looking very well. Slow, gentle bubbles so that we don't disturb the crystal clear liquid that's going to be within this. And we've got another batch here of roasted chicken stock. That's been going overnight as well. We're going to pull the bones out of these, strain it, and show you guys the finished liquid in just a moment. So, to cool our stock down, we're going to be preparing an ice bath. We'll be using these buckets, labeled ice only, found on top of the ice machine. We're going to fill these up about halfway with cube ice. The rest of it will be filled with cold water You make sure that the drain located on the bottom is pulled straight up. Make sure that you can have a mixture 1-to-1 of ice and water for our beef and chicken stock. So we're going to be getting started with straining our stock today. We're going to need a couple tools to do it. I've already got laid out here. All right, first of all, I've got my 5-gallon Pain Pro. This is this item right here. I will be using this to store all of our soup stocks and sauces in this kitchen. And we're going to be using some strainers today. All right, names of our strainers. This right here, the large holes inside of this here is called a China cap. And this one's got an even more complicated name. This fine mesh strainer right here is called a chinois. All right, we're going to be putting the chinois inside of the China cap. This is just going to help me make sure that my chinois doesn't go anywhere while I'm straining my stocking milk container. If I put it in there all by myself, sometimes while I'm straining, it can fall into my bucket. I'm just going to use this, steady my hand, and make straining a little easier. Over by the sauce pots, we're going to see this item right here. Some people mistake this for a sauce pot, start cooking in it. Well, believe it or not, this is actually one of our largest ladles right here. All right, this is a 2-quart ladle. This is going to be getting our stock out of here and into our bucket. Our stock itself is going to be made of the bones and the water. So what we're going to be doing here is straining out the bones and making sure that all this delicious stock comes through our China cap. Now that we've got our stock into our ice bath, we're going to start to degrease our stock, meaning all of this layer on top, that's all of our fat. We're going to want to remove that to get a crystal clear product to start cooking with. We're going to be using 2 more pieces of equipment. If you guys remember this one, this is called a Bain Marie, a high-sided metal container, and of course a large 4-ounce ladle. All right, to do this, we're going to do the pizza sauce move, all right? Pushing down from the center and then going outside, pushing with the back of my ladle until I can form a little window. Right, if you guys can see that just there, I'm going to be basically making a little spot where I can see my crystal clear liquid through, and I'm pushing the fat to the outside of my pan. From here, I'm going to push down with my ladle until the surface of the water is equal with the surface of my ladle, and then tip my ladle to gather my fat, right, making sure that I don't get any of the liquid inside my ladle, and then down into my Bain Marie container. I'm going to continue this process until it's completely degreased. All right, our stock has been strained through a China cap into chinois. It is in an ice bath presently. It has been degreased, meaning all the fat has been removed from the top. And this golden clear liquid that we have in front of us, this nice crystal clear stock, is going to be the building block for a lot of our recipes here in this kitchen as we get in to start our unit on how to build mother sauces. This right here, we have a finished product after a day's work. This here is called brown stock. Right, in this case, we're using our veal bones. We'll have 1 more of these to do a roasted chicken stock for other applications.